talk, and I'm going to specifically referring to how it relates to theosophy as well. It's kind of a grand narrative that I'm fitting. Now, this talk is going to be quite rapid in pace. The slides are designed for an hour. Yep, Leo. I'll move.
I still see my video on the screen.
Okay, yeah, sorry, I'll move that now. It's the slides are designed for an hour, but I'm condensing it to half an hour. So at times there'll be like a block of text on the screen. Don't feel pressure to read off of it and then listening to what I'm saying. Probably just listen to what I'm saying, unless I'm, reading off the full slide and you can follow along. But so yeah, just we'll go at a kind of fast pace, just to get to the end, which is really interesting. Anyway, so let's get started. Okay, so I've been on this authorship journey for about a year, and it was because of this gentleman named Alexander Waugh. Extremely funny, extremely eloquent, and just damn inspirational in terms of his eloquence and how he puts forth arguments. So I'll read off the slide here. This talk is dedicated to Alexander Waugh, a man who stood at the forefront of communicating the collective research of the Oxfordian community through clarity, courage, and wit. He gave a voice to the suppressed and the shadowed, reminding us that truth often hides in plain sight. He's uploaded not thousands, probably, a few hours of content on YouTube. It's a whole channel you can check out. It's just his name. Please do after this talk. This is why I'm doing this talk, is because he's just done it all for free and it's excellent. Quick dedication as well to Alan Green. He's still alive, but a lot of this talk is just going over things that he has discovered and that Alexander have discovered and many other people have discovered. So I'm condensing the entire field into one bite-sized kind of form. Okay, why theosophy exists today. So what this is about in particular is we take for granted that theosophy, we can live in a world now where theosophy can exist, but through most of human history, theosophy would be a radical idea. And it feels at times that theosophy, because our objects are so broad, that, it's kind of like, oh, well, the beliefs are very open-ended, but historically they're not. And the very simple ideas of, comparative mythology, the belief that all religions are hitting upon us a similar divine truth at the foundation of them, that's a radical idea historically. And it's really important to have a look at what we're about to look at to acknowledge that. Okay, so in words of Blavatsky, theosophy is the archaic wisdom religion, the esoteric doctrine once known in every ancient country, having claims to civilization. The thesis for this talk, by the way, I apologize for any little errors and spelling errors in this talk. There existed a pre-Masonic, pre-Rosicrucian secret society that currently doesn't officially exist in the historical record, that many great thinkers during the Middle Ages and prior were a part of. One piece of evidence for this is this fact is the clear cover-up of the true identity of Shakespeare and the complex layering of esoteric symbolism used to do so. This has been hypothesized by many groups, including the modern Templars, which posit that the Templars went underground after their destruction. This is Timothy Hogan. He's the current Grand Master of the, Templars, and this is something he says quite frequently. Okay, just getting past this little introductory phase, and then we'll get right into it. So, radical ideas in Shakespeare and the need for a pen name. Shakespeare's plays and sonnets contain ideas that were, for their time, intellectually explosive. In an era when the expression of unorthodox spirituality could be met with excommunication, imprisonment, or worse, these works challenged religious dogma, questioned the fixity of social roles, explore the reincarnation, alchemical transformation, and assert the soul's androgynous nature. These are all explored in Shakespeare's works. Now, this is an important point of information. I understand it's getting boring right now, right? This is the last little boring part of it. The issue, and this sets the tone of all what we're about to discover. The issue with plausible deniability is that anything which can be plausibly affirmed can also be plausibly denied. So this is what this means. These things are designed to be ambiguous, these clues and codes. A thinker might leave behind a hint a nod, a clue, but it becomes nearly impossible to distinguish that from coincidence because it is meant to look plausibly like random chance. The only way to verify the intent is through repetition. So I'm sure all of you guys will know there's times when you'll be rabbit holing some field and then people will be like, oh my God, look at this amazing kind of secret or hint or clue or ancient kind of nod to something. And you might think it's just a bit of coincidence. The issue is that in the past, they made it to look like coincidence. So we have a little bit of a catch-22. And what I'm saying here is the only way that we can know is if the phenomena is repeated. What prevented theosophical thought in the past? Why remain hidden? The crown, star chamber, and the church. Now, star chamber was a branch of the kind of monarchy in the Middle Ages, and their goal was to lock up any dissent or heresy or conversation against the crown. The church, I'm sure all you guys know, has a very bloody past of finding heresy, where heresy was defined as pretty much any belief that wasn't Catholic doctrine. And so this is why they needed a pen name, why thinkers would sometimes not even put any name on their drafts for poetry and plays and so on. So when we're talking about why Shakespeare is a pen name is the term for a fake name. This is why. Some of you might have heard of Giordano Bruno. He was arrested by the Roman Inquisition, imprisoned for 7 years, and burned at the stake in 1600 in Rome. His crimes was that he taught that the universe was infinite, that each star was a sun with its own planets, and that other worlds could contain life, something that everyone pretty much takes as fact. So you can see what I mean at the beginning of this talk, where a lot of the ideas that we just think are given today were radical ideas of the past. Sorry, the tragic life, apparently. So the tragic life of the poet and playwright Christopher Marlowe. This is just a section about how he was imprisoned and imprisoned again, and he was exiled, and he had a crazy life. You look into his life, it's like, oh my God. Now, he's a poet, and we think of poets today, people who are interested in poetry, as a very tame thing, but in the past, the poet's life was very tragic. Pen names were very common. So writers in Elizabethan and Jacobean England often used pen names to veil radical political or esoteric views. Some adopted fully fictitious personas, while others used hyphenated names like Tom Tell Truth, Martin Marprelate, or Pascal Cavalader. The use of hyphens was not accidental. It suggested satire, dual identity, or symbolic meaning, acting as the cipher in itself. These pseudonyms offered plausible deniability, protecting authors from Star Chamber. Okay, and many pen names of today that you might not have known were pen names: George Orwell, Mark Twain, Lewis Carroll, J.K. Rowling, obviously, Dr. Seuss. This section is a very small section of a lot of names. I even saw someone make the point that even Jesus Christ is not the name of Jesus himself. The Christ part was added later as Christos. So he would have been something like Yeshua ben Yusuf, son of Joseph. So pen names are really common throughout the past, and if you look into it, you're going to be like, wow. Even actors today, most actors that you know of, it's not their real names, stage names. Okay, so background on Shakespeare at the time. So we call him Shakespeare here because when the first ever time that we see Shakespeare's name written, it's as Shakespeare, not as Shakespeare. And as you can see in the signatures, every single time that we find Shakespeare written, it is in a different spelling. Not to mention, have a look at his writing, as you can see in the left panel there. It's horrendous. And you might think, okay, yeah, but it's 500 years ago. It's horrendous for the time as well. A comparison is Edward de Vere's signature in the bottom right. That's what the poets of the time, that's how beautiful their writing were. far more beautiful than the average person's today. So it speaks a lot to why Shakespeare did not have a strong hand. Just in the text, he left few traces of literary friendships or scholarly correspondence, rarely fraternized with the learned, yet somehow wrote with staggering depth and erudition. Okay, the evidence against Shakespeare: illiteracy. Shakespeare, or Shakespeare, came from Stratford-upon-Avon, a provincial market town with low literacy and no known intellectual culture. His father, wife, and daughters were all illiterate. Despite this, we are told he became the most refined writer in English history, yet left behind no books, no letters, no manuscripts, no evidence of formal education. Books as well, just so you know, in the past, a single book could be worth upwards of, in today's money, $5,000. They were very valuable. And the fact that there's no books in his will left to his wife or children at all, when apparently he was so learned, is quite a mystery, even to the people who believe that Shakespeare is Shakespeare. Only 5 shaky signatures survive in his whole life, each spelled differently, and many paleographers argue that they lack the fluency of a practiced hand. Shakespeare never appeared in correspondence with other writers of the era, never mentioned in his own works, and left no literary library in his will. For a man who championed the education of women, it's especially strange that his own daughters could not read or write. So Alexander makes a really funny joke in one of his speeches, and he says that in terms of the line of Shakespeare's family, they were illiterate, greatest writer of all time, illiterate. And it's just quite funny and a huge mystery as to how the greatest writer of all time came out of an illiterate family and left illiterate children. It's just a mystery. So the Supreme Court ruling is just me being facetious there. The Shakespeare authorship question isn't just a fringe theory. It has been taken seriously by some of the world's sharpest legal minds. Multiple US Supreme Court justices have expressed skepticism that the man from Stratford wrote the works attributed to him. Justice John Paul Stevens, along with Justices Sandra Day O'Connor and Antonin Scalia, all stated they believed the authorship question was legitimate, with Stevens favouring Edward de Vere, the 17th Earl of Oxford, as the true author. If the greatest legal minds in America are unconvinced, perhaps the case isn't as closed as we have been led to believe. And as well, a few other great thinkers who have doubted. Mark Twain, who's a great authority, if he himself is such an extraordinary literary mind. Sigmund Freud believed that it was de Vere. Walt Whitman, Charlie Chaplin. Charlie Chaplin's important because obviously he participated in plays. He's obviously isn't a writer himself, I don't think. Henry James, Orson Welles, and Supreme Court justices, as I have said. So this isn't some weird theory that I've, pulled off of the corner of the internet. This has been talked about for at least the last few hundred years. Now, how did he know all of that? I'm not going to read all of this, but Shakespeare knew way too much for someone who was supposed to be from a town that was generally illiterate. Fluency in Latin, deep knowledge of European history, politics. He would have had to have known Italian and French. The locality in Italy as well in some of Shakespeare's works refers to specific churches. And we know that Shakespeare from Stratford-upon-Avon never went to Italy. Legal expertise, aristocratic understanding of court etiquette, military terminology, navigation and maritime knowledge, falconry, which is fencing and hunting are all upper class games, high-level philosophical and esoteric thought, familiarity with Italian geography and customs. And again, there's not only any books that Shakespeare wrote or worked in, but no books about any of these topics. The current theory is that I'm not joking, he went down to the pub and talked with people and learned all of this stuff, which is possible, but I didn't even know if it's possible, to be honest with you. It's funny. It's kind of like saying that the greatest literary mind of today learned all of what they know through podcasts. It's ridiculous. Now, there's a vast gap in documentary evidence. This is pure credit to a woman named Diana Price. And it's presented by an attorney named Alex McNeil in a video called Who Really Wrote Shakespeare? Shakespeare Authorship 101. Great video, go and check it out. So Diana makes a checklist of what is required for someone to be a candidate for the author of the works of Shakespeare. And as we see here, evidence of education, record of correspondence, evidence of being paid to write, and the list goes on. This actually exceeds this, what's on the page as well. And then she ticked off all of the major playwrights at the time, and Shakespeare ticks off none of them. So quite interesting. There's a lack of documentary evidence or circumstantial evidence that Shakespeare, the man from Stratford-upon-Avon, was the writer. Empty graves. In 2016, a radar scan revealed no complete skeleton beneath the grave and no trace of a skull. The dimensions of the grave appear to be too short to fit a full adult body, suggesting either tampering or symbolic burial. And the question is, why a symbolic burial for Shakespeare when Shakespeare died, no one cared? There was no talk of it in the world. It wasn't something revered or anything. Okay, common proposals is Stratford-upon-Avon, Christopher Marlowe, Edward de Vere, and Francis Bacon. A lot of Theosophists take the Francis Bacon perspective. I'll be presenting the de Vere case today, which I think is very strong. So who is Shakespeare? Edward de Vere. So why Edward de Vere? So in 2016, again, I'm just going to speak off the cuff here. What they did was they analyzed Shakespeare's texts and compared them to all of the other poets at the time. And they use, this was all artificial intelligence, primitive artificial intelligence in 2016, which analyzed writing techniques, word use, verbiage, and so on. And they found that Christopher Marlowe wrote some of Shakespeare's works. And this is of no surprise because Christopher Marlowe was very close to Edward de Vere. I'm pretty sure they lived with each other for a duration of time, if I'm not mistaken. And what was it with the, for example, I think Shakespeare uses brothers and Marlowe uses brethren, and those kind of differences. You won't find brethren used in any of Shakespeare's works, but then he all of a sudden starts using it. Then we know it wasn't him, it was someone else. And this was really common at the time. A lot of authors would work together and collaborate. But it's very interesting. We know almost for a fact now that Christopher Marlowe wrote some portions of Shakespeare. The death of Shakespeare is really peculiar, as I alluded to before. No public mourning, no funeral tributes, no poetic elegies or anything. There was no talk, no word of it for 7 years until all of a sudden the first folio comes out and so on. Now, Ben Jonson was the rival of Shakespeare at the time. He was really quite an interesting man, very pompous, very uppity. He didn't want to write for people who weren't educated and so on. Quite interesting. He wrote this on his, the first folio was Shakespeare's first, here are all of my works, and it was released 7 years after he died. And this is what Ben Jonson, who worked on the first folio, put out. This figure that thou here seest put, it was for gentle Shakespeare cut, wherein the graver had a strife with nature. To outdo the life, oh, could he but have drawn his wit as well in brass as he hath hit his face, the print would then surpass all that was ever writ in brass. But since he cannot, reader, look not on his picture, but his book. So quite interesting. People have analysed it a lot before, but the last line is the most interesting, that Ben Jonson, who definitely would have known who the true author of Shakespeare was, said, and emphasized at the end, look not on his picture, but his book. And the picture in question is the picture at the beginning of the engraving of Shakespeare that we all know. Now, here's where we get into the cryptograms and the codes and so on, ciphers and all that's quite interesting. Okay, and all of these codes and cryptograms were made after both de Vere and Shakespeare have died. Now, a quick word on the secret fire and the will. The secret fire, this is where it gets really esoteric. where you see these ideas of kind of mysticism and hermeticism pop up that were not allowed to be talked about at the time. The secret fire is a recurring symbol in alchemical and hermetic texts, a hidden force that animates, transforms, and transcends. It does not burn the body, but purifies the soul. In esoteric thought, this fire represents will, not mere desire, but divine directed intention that awakens latent power with the self. Logos, if you will, Sophia, if you will. It's a whole world. Okay, so the Tao, the beginning, the middle, and the end. So you might be asking, why am I talking about a T? This will all make sense. It's very important that we go over this, though. So the T is inherently connected with the Trinity. Coincidentally, it is also a symbol of the cross, because Jesus was crucified on a Tau cross that was like this, not like this. This became popular after the fact, but this was the cross that the Romans used more typically, and is believed that Jesus was crucified on. Just having a quick look at my notes here. Yeah, threes. Okay, and also three, all the allusions to three or words for three start with T, tres, triple, and three, Trinity, right? T is very connected to threes, right? 3 times 3 is 9, another sacred number associated with Jesus. 10 is also associated with Jesus. The X, because the X is also a T, and in the Hebrew language, Tau or Ta is X. It functions as the X. It's quite interesting to learn that X and T are essentially the same thing across languages. The Roman numerals for 9 is IX, important because I in Greek is J, and then X is Chi. So it's Jesus Christ. It's the initials of Jesus Christ. Is IX 9. X is Chi, as I said above. It's also the divine union of male and female. It forms the blade and then the chalice, and then you stack those on top of each other. It's the meets at a point, a union between the masculine and the feminine, and X. It's also the exact same as the Tau, as I said before. In Isaiah, it's actually, sorry, I'm incorrect here. It's not Isaiah, it's Ezekiel. The X or the Tau is said to be put on the foreheads of those who are to be saved by God. This is pre-New Testament. And it's funny because the Tau back then, not now, not in Hebrew now, but at the time the Bible was written, was an X. And a lot of Christians really like this because it shows in the Old Testament the use of the cross on the foreheads of people to indicate those who were saved by God, and anyone who didn't have an X on their head in this contextual kind of war that was happening would die. Yeah, okay, said all of that. And all right, so the Tau is a really, really esoteric symbol. There is St. Peter upside down. It's the upside down T. Very important symbol as well. Also, the Hanged Man in Tarot. As you can see, it's the Tau cross. It's 100% a play on St. Peter. And we're getting into his body and why he's making those gestures with his body later on. Okay, the Tau, the beginning, the middle, and the end. So, okay, so as you see on the left screen, A, as you see in Greek, came from the imagery of a bull. Quite interesting. That's where we get our A from. It was 1800 BC. And Aleph in Hebrew is A, alpha. And then as you can see beneath it, in late Hebrew, it morphs into what looks like an X. It's quite interesting. So as you can see, X at the end and then A at the beginning, there's this kind of loop that's created there. And now let's have a look on the right side of the screen. Early Hebrew, Middle Hebrew, Late Hebrew, and Modern Hebrew. The Modern Hebrew is the Tau, but originally, as I said, in Ezekiel, it's the X, it's the cross that is the Tau. And Tau, and as in Taurus, the bull is that's where it comes from, because the T also looks like a bull. And as you can see, sorry, this sounds very strange. This is a really, 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 really esoteric kind of thing. I probably shouldn't have put in because it's too complicated. But what I'm showing you here is that A came from the bull and T came from the bull. And in the Hebrew alphabet, A and T is the beginning and the end. So T at the end, at the beginning, T at the end. And in the Hebrew alphabet, Tau is then pushed to the center, the exact center letter, making the T at the beginning, T in the end, and in the middle, and then T in the end. Why is this relevant? I am the Alpha and the Omega, the first and the last, the beginning and the end. Via veritas vita. That is, I am the way, the truth, and the life. This is a very important thing. It might sound abstract today, but it was really important back in the day. Via veritas vita. Okay, so as you can see, via veritas venit creates 3 triangular shaped kind of emanations. Put together creates a Masonic symbol. This is a Masonic symbol used by other groups as well to represent Jesus Christ. It's also the 3 by 3 by 3 making the 9. Right? The Chi Rho means beginning in Hebrew. And the X, as we established, is at the end of the alphabet because it's the Tau. So Rho is the beginning and Chi is the end, the beginning and the end. The symbol that you see at the top of the screen is called as the Chi Rho Christogram. And Constantine used this symbol and said, in this symbol, you will conquer. Oh, we will conquer. It's called in hoc signo vinces. In this sign you will conquer. And it's associated with Jesus Christ, obviously. IHS, in the sign you will conquer. Now, as you can see, there's the T or the cross on top of the H. This is very important as we're about to explore, because the triple Tau is very similar to that. The T on the H, it's also 3 T's attached to each other. Now, the T and the H is Templum Hierosolymae. Always mess that up. The Temple of Jerusalem. It's connected to the Templars. The triple Tau is not just a symbol, it's a cipher of ciphers and the emblem of emblems. It's the key to the treasures to the Freemasons. In the Royal Arch Masonry, it marks the place of the great discovery, the lost word, the name of God, the hidden breath, and so on. As you can see in this quote, if thou canst comprehend how these things join together, it is enough for thy knowledge. That's a quote relating to the triple Tau. And as you can see, it's very old, and we think it goes as old as the Templars. Okay, John D. We demonstrate here that the quaternary is concealed in the ternary. O God, pardon me if I have sinned against thee by revealing such a great mystery in my writings, which all may read. But if I believe that only those who are truly worthy, but I believe that only those who are truly worthy will understand. Now, John D, we're going to get into him. But what he's saying is that the 4 is hidden in the 3. This is a really, really secret thing. And that's why he says, "Oh God, pardon me if I have sinned against thee by revealing such a great mystery." And we'll get into why this is such a great mystery. The 4th T. So as you can see here, the triple Tau is made up of 3 T's and then the hidden 4th T upside down. And as you can see here, we have our 3 triangles, and then a 4th is made in the negative space between them because it's hidden. You add 3, 3, 3 together, you get the 4th 3. That's what is being said. The upside down T, the cross of St. Peter. John D, the magus and the astrologer of the Queen. This is what he put in his works. He's a court magician. He is the Merlin. He's everything where you get of this kind of modern imagery of the Merlin, the Gandalf, the magus, the hand of the Queen is him. He was an astrologer. He created the Enochian language. He's one of the most famous esotericists of all time. As you can see, he's holding the compass in this image. And as well, he was the original 007. He was the 007 because the 2 O's were the eyes of the Queen, because he was a spy for the Queen. And the 7 is his name in numerology, John 4D3. He loved 4 and 3 to make 7. He's the original 007. And this is actually where 007 came from. So in the Monas Hieroglyphicus, he put this table, or this Enochian table, and this is used to encode messages and secrets and so on, right? This is his magnum opus, for lack of a better term. And there are 624 squares in it. Because 624 he found very important. Was very strange that he delivered this work on the 6th of the 24th, 624. 20 years after this, Edward de Vere died, supposedly died, because they think he didn't die when he said he died, on the 6th of the 24th again. Shakespeare, 20 years prior, was baptized, or Shakespeare was baptized on the 4th of the 26th of the 4th, 426, a reversal of 624. And the feast day, go through these images. The feast day of Saint John the Baptist, who's the patron saint of Freemasons, is, even this year, the 24th of the 6th. It's connected to Freemason in a very tight, intertwined way. And Freemasons, so they say, came out to the world on the 24th of June, the 24th of the 6th, right? 1717, again, another kind of sacred number. So 624 is deeply Masonic. There's so much more beyond this that I couldn't include for time reasons in this, but it is overwhelming. There's a good 3-4 other interesting coincidences. Remember I said repetition, repetition, repetition. Edward de Vere, the numbers in his name, Edward 6, de 2, Vere 4, Earl of Oxford, reversed 426. Okay, so we're digging into Shakespeare's sonnets. These have been analyzed and studied more than any part of Shakespeare's works. These pages have had entire books upon books written about them, just these 2 pages. And one guy connected the page on the left to the Great Pyramid. It sounds ridiculous, but it was actually quite convincing. Incredible. But we're going to dig into the second page just for time. So, to the only begetter of these ensuing sonnets, Mr. W.H., all happiness and that eternity promised by, over ever-living poet wisheth the, our ever-living poet wisheth the well-wishing adventurer in setting forth T.T. Okay, so quite peculiar. This has been said by everyone who I've seen analyze this, that it's not just me that I'm not very well read and I don't really understand the old school way of talking. This is bad phrasage, really bad. Doesn't make any sense. What are they saying here? And the rule is, whenever there's really bad work done by people who should be really good, this was done, believed to be by Ben Jonson, even though it says Thomas Thorpe, we have reason to believe of an encryption. So the number of lines, as you can see here, it forms this very strange kind of 3 triangles. And it is strange because, like, I'm a graphic designer. You wouldn't, why would you put by underneath promised when it can easily fit next to it? And it seems like they are trying to create this kind of spacing of the words. There's a really big spacing as well for by, under, promised. It's bigger than all of that which is above it. And I understand there's variation in the printing process. I just don't think it's so with this. But 6 lines, 2 lines, and 4 lines separated apart. Now, this is a really common code. We have 624 as the key, one of the keys. There can be a couple. Now, what we then do, if we pick the 6th letter of this phrase, the 2nd letter, and then the 4th letter, and then do it again, 6, 2, 4, 6, 2, 4. And when we do that, we get these sonnets by ever the 4th T. This is interpreted as E via the 4th T. And when you grab the middle section, as we did with those triangles where it unveiled an upside down triangle underneath, this upside down triangle then inverted into a positive triangle by VV, the poet, vero nihil veris. Why is this interesting? Is because vero nihil veris is the coat of arms, what's it called, slogan? Coat of arms for Edward de Vere. As you can see, Edward de Vere's signature was the double V. It was W. And if you look at the bottom V's, it's vero nihil, meaning nihil, nihilism, nothing, an empty space between it, and then veris. And when you overcross them, you have three triangles pointing down at the top and one underneath that's hidden, created in the negative space at the bottom, the fourth T hidden in the W. The tau, 19th letter in Greek. This is really important because we're going to use another key. The key is 19 here. And when you get the text above and arrange it into a 19 grid, you get this. Now, I tried doing other numbers, 10, this and that. It yields nothing. I put it into like ChatGPT and it'll be like, can you find any words in this? And be like, no. But this is really interesting. So this grid has a whole bunch of codes in here. I can only go through about one or two. So as you can see, right at the bottom, we have the triple tau and the fourth just neatly hidden next to it. But that could be coincidence. It begins with T, ends with T, and it also should be said to verify using 19 as the grid. There are 19 T's in this whole text. So we have a double verification. Again, repetition. We need repetition to verify. So there's 19 T's, and T is the 19th letter of the Greek alphabet. So I am the beginning, I am the end. Jesus, right? Not vero nihil veris. It was let me just, there it is. Via veritas venit. I'm going really tired today. I am the way, the truth, and the life. I am the beginning, middle, and end. And when we look at the middle of this text and we form a T right here in the 10th column, we get veritas. Via veritas venit. I'm the beginning, middle, and end. And that is a profound coincidence if it is a coincidence. It's an anagram of veritas. There's more. There's so many anagrams and so on throughout here. There's de Vere, and then there is lies here. There's, if you look just next to this triangle, you have, it actually has South Isle. So you look to the left of it, there's the N, beneath it is I-L-E, is Isle. Beneath it is an O, next to it is a U or V. It's South Isle. South Isle is an allusion to something entirely. It's quite interesting. Anyway, let's move on. Let's find, again, repetition. We want the T, T, T again. We want the triple tau to see if there's a hidden fourth T. As you can see here, this is the dedication to Shakespeare, that was done by those who organized his funeral and so on. And you can see here in red, I just highlighted the triple tau down the aisle there. And it doesn't make any sense that they did that. It seems intentional because I have the original manuscript that they used, and it's nothing like this. But if you have Jesus above it, it forms a T, a fourth T, with Jesus being the key. As you see here on the left, this is the original draft for what they were going to do. And it says there on the bottom left, good friend, for Jesus' sake, forbears to dig the dust enclosed here. Blessed be the man that spares these bones, and cursed be the man that mourns my bones. That's the bottom left, as you see. And there's no triple tau there. So in my estimation, they did it intentionally. Now look at his monument. As you can see here, it has the two cherub-like children at the top, one holding the hourglass. It has like a temple-like figure with a doorway and two pillars next to it. This is all Masonic. And the skull at the top is quite interesting. The spade that they're holding, that's to dig, to find out, to explore. Now, as you can see in this Masonic symbol over here, on this temple at the bottom, it says hoc signo vinces, as I said before, with the skull above. In this sign, you will conquer. There's the skull. On the right side of the building, you see the hourglass again, and then the three triangles with the two angels. As you see, it's three triangles intertwined with a fourth triangle pointing downward with the eye of God in the middle. That's the logos in the middle, the fourth T, the key to the treasures. And then as you see above, there's Jesus, the upwards T, the downward pointing triangle, and then Saint Peter on the right. Saint Peter was buried upside down. So his triangle or T was like this, and he's holding the grail, which is the vessel as well. Anyway, as you see in concluding now, Shakespeare's monument, at the bottom right corner, you have the four T's, and this is also encoded with a bunch of really interesting text because it doesn't make any sense. The whole thing doesn't make any sense. As you see here, this is the monument at the Westminster Abbey of Shakespeare. Such a beautiful work. I believe it was done in 1740, which is connected to Edward de Vere. But as you can see, four T's lined up there, T, 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 T. What's really interesting about this is that this is a quote by Shakespeare that is misspelt to allow those four T's to line up and to allow the number of letters in it to equal a certain number of letters. And as you can see, he's pointing to temples, solemn temples, Solomon's temple. And as you can see here, Templar knights were buried with their legs crossed. There's so many statues of Shakespeare with his legs crossed in that fashion. It's a very peculiar pose he keeps replicating. And why the Templars cross their legs is because any Templar that served, when they're buried, their legs were forming a cross to notify the rest of the world throughout time that they served. And as you can see, if you invert it, you get a kind of Cairo, an X with his legs, creating a loop with his arms, with the straightness of his body to create, in this sign, you will conquer. Right? And then, well, another statue, same symbol, you have him pointing to the word shadow player. Quite interesting. Why is it in all capitals and the rest of it is, who knows? And as well, you have the Freemason, it's a Freemason stance because you have Washington here, who was a Freemason, in the same symbol, crossing of the legs, the X, and then the row creating with the loop of his arm. And as well, you got the hanged man creating loops with his arm and the crossing of the legs. It's all Mason. This is the engraving of Shakespeare. Again, rapid firing through these just to get through it. This engraving has been heavily criticized. It's ugly. Everyone knows it's ugly. It was called ugly since it was created. I'm pretty sure it was the son of the main guy who does the engravings. What's really interesting is his little neck tuft forms a point at the back of his head, and it looks like his head is sitting on top of a spade. And the spade, similar to the spade that we saw earlier, why you have a head sitting on something is an allusion to John the Baptist, who was beheaded, and again is the patron saint of Freemasons. And as well, if you look really closely, people have analyzed, you might call this an over-analysis, but I've never seen this replicated in other portraits. Look at his chin going up to his ear, and it looks like as if his face is a mask sitting on top of someone else's face. Now, it could just be the shadow of his neck, but again, I've never seen it drawn like that before, ever. Quite interesting. So, why Shakespeare? In the words of Alexander Waugh, Shakespeare is a very obvious pen name. It's a joking allusion to Pallas Athena, the patron goddess of wisdom, or Sophia. And playwrights, of wisdom and Sophia, and playwrights, apparently. Playwrights is Athena's the patron goddess of playwrights. Athena was born from the mind or will of Zeus and confronted Agamemnon, spelt wrong, while shaking or brandishing her spear, which she was born with. The shaking of the spear is the symbol for Athena using her divine will and voice, because when she's born, she yelled to the heavens and it shook Mount Olympus, and that's the first thing she did. It's the first thing a baby does when they're born is scream. It's the logos that people connect to. She is said to have more wisdom than any other god. It's a play on will, Shakespeare, and also the W, the signature of Edward de Vere. Ilium is the old Latin phrasage for the Iliad. They didn't call it the Iliad at the time of Shakespeare, they called it the Ilium. And so you have the W and the William, the Latin spelling for what we call the Iliad today. In the Ilium, book one, Athena comes down from the threatens from the heavens, and threatens Agamemnon by shaking her spear. She also does so when Achilles is to kill Hector. Put together, W, Ilium, shake, spear. Directly linking Athena, the goddess of playwrights, it couldn't be more perfect. Conclusion, so here we are sitting in an age where we can speak openly about the things that not that long ago could get you silenced, imprisoned, or worse. The ideas at the heart of theosophy, oneness, hidden wisdom, the search for truth beyond dogma, did not just appear out of nowhere. They were carried through fire. They were spoken in code, hidden in plays, whispered in secret societies, buried in symbols. And the people who dared to keep them alive, many of them never called themselves Theosophists. There was no such word, but they were living it. They paid the price so we could ask the questions we ask now, so we could be who we are now. We do not just inherit these ideas, we inherit the struggle that kept them alive, and it is on us to carry that forward, louder, clearer, with eyes wide open. And that's everything. Thank you very much. And a few questions as well that we'll get into. But yeah, that concludes my talk.
Thank you so much, Malik. Oh my gosh, this is mind-blowing for me. A lot of things. So it's very, very interesting. And you makes me wonder whether maybe one day we can have an online class that we can study about symbols and decoding or something like that. We can start, writing love letter in codes.
Yeah. Oh no, we definitely could. There's a lot to it. Everything. I must apologize to you guys for going so quickly and skimming over so much. It really is incredible, and I wanted to kind of pack in all the juicy parts into one lecture. Yeah.
So yeah, maybe Malik, maybe this is the time for us to open for discussions. If you want to read out a question, and let's see if anyone wants to share anything.
Yeah, absolutely. I kind of want to see if anyone has any questions. Questions just that I haven't prepared. If anyone has any burning questions, let me. Maybe I should stop sharing.
I have a question, Mr. James.
Okay, one moment. Let me head over to. Yeah. All right. So, yeah, question, James.
What was your original sort of curiosity that took you down this big rabbit hole? Because you went pretty far.
Yeah. So, what deeply interests me is the idea that the ancients even before the Templars knew something from Egypt. My main area of interest is actually into the Mesopotamian study and the wisdom from the Mesopotamian region, and you can kind of see how it kind of goes through time. But the idea that there is a link of between you have the Freemasons and you have the Rosicrucians and then you have the Templars and you have this gap in between. The idea that there wasn't a gap and it was a continuous culture all throughout history is really deeply interesting to me. And as well, my area of study, I did a talk on the four elements and also the divine feminine. And I'm a big believer in that the logos is the key. And as I said before in this talk, the will and the logos, speech, this fourth hidden emanation or principle, really interesting. And the biggest thing to answer your question is because I said in my original talk like a year and a half ago or a year ago, that I believe that it wasn't a trinity, it was a quaternary. It's just something that the symbols lined up with. The symbol said 4, it didn't say 3. And I was like, where does 3 come from? And I believe that the fourth element was the feminine that fell out of favor throughout time. And this feminine is originally Sophia, wisdom. It's a feminine aspect, always has been feminine. And then it became the Holy Spirit and not Sophia. And so I'm kind of interested in restoring that fourth branch because to me, the 4 makes sense based on the 4 elements. Anyway, long-winded answer, but that's what really got me interested in it. Yeah,
I love that. Yeah, it's very relevant to Theosophy. I mean, it's in the name as well, so it's good that you bring them back for sure. Right.
Yeah.
A lot of admiration for you for that. Love that.
Thank you. Appreciate it. And any other questions? No? All right.
So maybe you can share the questions, Malik.
Most definitely. Okay.
Yeah.
So the questions were, first question, I think it's the most important. Do you believe...
Can you please share it on the screen so people can read?
Share it? Yeah, no problem. Okay, 3 seconds. Okay. All right. Do you believe it would be better to walk the path of Giordano Bruno and die a martyr for truth, or to remain in the shadows like John Dee and spread the word through cryptic messages and secret societies? If you were like back in time, what kind of path do you think is the right one to follow? I can't see everyone, so I'm gonna have to do this. Yeah, there we go.
Malik, you send it to the group chats.
Oh, okay.
Or you can send it to me. I can put it in a
Yeah,
file.
I'll do that. That's way better because I like seeing everyone.
Yeah. Send it to me. I'll put it on a Word file and I'll share with everyone.
Okay. Let me stop sharing. Wait, could I just put it in the chat, do you think?
Yep, I will.
Okay.
Marike, always the first student to ask. Very good.
No, I mean, I was thinking about this first. And the one thing is, some people believe that Giordano Bruno was one of the previous life of Besant. And if you think what became of Hani Besant, I think he prepared himself with this life that he stays true to the truth that he believed, and he was rather be killed than be saved. He was so true, and this life, what she has as Hani Besant, she became like a forefighter for Indian independence, for women's rights, for so many things. Theosophy was one of the among this. So you ask, what is better to be? A person who says the truth and is not killed and maybe can say more truth in hidden forms, or the one who say it out and get died? But if you think in a long distance, in a sense, like in a bigger picture, not in this one life, then I think the Annie Besant or the Giordano Bruno did like a better deed for the humanity, and maybe have the courage that he had or she had.
I like it. Awesome. Maybe Harry?
Firstly, Malik, that was such an incredible talk. It didn't feel like it was your first one with the youth group. So, congrats. And I just wanted to say that I have come across Madame Blavatsky and Annie Besant both referring to the works of Shakespeare multiple times. And I think somewhere in Secret Doctrine, if I'm not wrong, somewhere in the very beginning parts, Madame Blavatsky quotes one of Shakespearean quotes, which is gently to hear and kindly to judge. So and also, your topic was so profound. I mean, I just like James, even I'm curious. Like, I know you have answered that, but have you ever tried to go deeper into the literature aspect as such, like the works of Shakespeare and the hidden symbolisms, or spiritual meanings in his work or something like that?
I would love to. That's my next endeavor, and I know there's plenty to dig into with that. I don't know if anyone knows Shakespeare, The Tempest, but there's a character called Prospero in it, and he is John Dee, and it's another reason why people believe that this is Edward de Vere, because de Vere was definitely close with John Dee, and it's almost a direct parallel. So I want to dig into it again and reread what I have read to look at it through the lens of what I've talked about today. I think a part of me wants Shakespeare to be Shakespeare, like they're just the guy who just was 45 and just started writing and was the best writer of all time, because the level of genius behind his work is just staggering. If he is just a guy, it would make him into me one of the most intelligent human beings of all time. So I definitely do want to look into the deeper esoteric themes of the actual kind of content of Shakespeare for sure. Very good question, and thank you for your kind words as well.
And I asked that, Malik, because I personally believe, I really wish he was just a man who just started writing and had this profound impact on humanity for the next, I mean, until now. And I also believe, if you look at it, human history in the last 400, 500 years, post Shakespeare, I think he's definitely the most impactful single not just writer, but he has impacted the human school of thought so much. So yeah, I wish I'll be looking forward to your next to the sequel of this talk whenever you're ready.
Lovely, thank you very much. And I will be doing another talk on this soon, next month, that I'm going to film and maybe put up on YouTube. But yeah, just what you said was really profound about how Shakespeare is the most important figure in the history of like literature since he was alive. There is this perspective that certain thinkers just changed the world with regards to how that they're not a really good player in the game. Like, Ronaldo is a great soccer player, but they changed the game itself. So it's that all literature after them is done in their shadow. And the other thinker that's like that is Plato. And I think it was Alfred Whitehead, the philosopher, said the entire corpus of Western philosophy is but a footnote of back to Plato. And that blew my mind. It is true. Plato, really, everyone's just doing a derivative of Plato. And in literature, everyone's playing on Shakespeare. So I want him to be just a random guy. I love works of genius. So yeah, thanks for your question. Yeah, Leo?
Yes, I just want to go back to the question number one that you asked here.
Mhm.
Like, which one is better to die for what you believe or to remain in the shadows and spread the truth? I think it pretty much, I think that each way that you choose will definitely contribute to the growth or the evolution of humanity. If everyone is just like Giordano Bruno and just died right away, we don't have any kind of like messages or truths to be shared down the generations. But if everyone just remain in the shadows and just keep writing all of this secret stuff, and nobody's going to talk about the truth, then it doesn't make any sense. And I think that whichever path that we choose definitely is going to contribute. And I think it's related to the ray of our soul as well. If you are first ray, which is the wheel, I think that maybe you guys know about the 7 rays. The first ray, maybe you have the strong will, maybe like Giordano Bruno, just go and do it and die. And maybe the one who remains in the shadow, like John Dee, keep going and teaching, maybe the second ray, love and wisdom.
Yeah.
No, ray 4, maybe, yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good perspective. Like from my perspective, the way I think about it is, some might say that what Bruno did was really silly in the Inquisition, to have been a little bit too bold in saying what he said. But it's the age-old thing of like, is it cowardice or courage, right? But another thing to consider that I didn't add about Dee is that he was the personal astrologer of the Queen, and he was in her ear. And a lot of people don't know this, but the Queen was an alchemist. Sorry, this is Queen Elizabeth I. She conducted and did alchemy under the guise of guide of John Dee. And he obviously would have influenced her to be a lot softer on esoteric thought. And obviously she was a Protestant. She had a much less of a control on that. And now the king after him, King James, the guy who put together the King James Bible, he was nuts. So I don't know. The way I like to think of it is that the people who really push the needle in history are people like Bruno, who die for what they believe in. Because yeah, anyway. But thank you for that answer. All right. Any other inputs? No? Okay. All right. Let's swing over to the next question. If you had a world-changing idea, would you entrust it to the public or conceal it in symbols for the right eyes to find? Now, I referenced it once in my talk. Hold on, my screen is frozen. Okay, there we go. I referenced it once in my talk where John Dee and also Ben Jonson was like this, where they didn't write for the vulgar. Now, vulgar was a word that today means disgusting, but it's vulgar was just the general people, and that's why the Bible at the time is called Vulgate, because it was made for the common man, and they only wrote for other esoteric thinkers and stuff like that. And it's a really good question. Do you, like, let's say all of you who are on your journeys and writing works and doing things, when you produce stuff, do you write in mind for us? Like, when I construct this talk, am I doing it for you who are already interested? Or do you construct works for people who have no interest in it at all? That's kind of what I mean by that question. Does anyone have an answer? Yep, Christopher.
Well, I guess it would depend on the nature of the world-changing idea. Because remember, in Theosophy, for example, we are told that the masters also withhold esoteric information from us because it could lead us to practicing black magic instead of aspiring to the spiritual path. So it would depend. If the nature of my idea would be dangerous, that it would pose a threat to other people, then I would withhold it, and then I would keep it until I figure out who I can safely entrust the information to. So if I discover like a new medication that could potentially have some benefits but could also be used as a weapon for war, of course, I'll keep that information and I'll make sure that only the people I trust will be able to gain access to that specific idea. But
Yeah.
if like, for example, the idea of universal brotherhood or the idea of, for example, self-awareness or the idea of meditation, if I feel that the idea has more benefits for the public, then yeah, I can go ahead and make it known to everyone. So it would depend primarily on the nature of the idea.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. It would. Yeah, I think just to keep the conversation on track, more, I think ideas such as like, kind of like maybe not ideas that are mystical and dark, but more ideas that are kind of just that you can practically implement. And just very quickly, it reminded me of this Bible quote, not to cast pearls before swine. And I'm thinking that's either a very good piece of wisdom or it's really kind of exclusionary of certain minds. Anyway, Leonidas?
Yeah. Actually, on this topic, I've been thinking about it a lot, and this is why encryption, cryptography, and the mystical writing is very interesting because the knowledge and the wisdom can be written in such a way that when everyone is reading the same thing, they can understand just what their level of understanding can receive and just. And that is just, yeah, it's amazing to me. And I am aspiring to be able to write in that way so that we don't need to choose whether it's like, oh, only like 10 people in the world can read it and nobody else, or it is everyone, but we need to dump it down and then it is losing its value. So yeah, that's my thought.
It's interesting you say that, I'm not sure if you're familiar much with the works of Friedrich Nietzsche, but his writing was like symbolic. Like he was scary. He's scary intelligent, but everything he wrote was so laid in meaning that it's said that whatever you read of him, whatever you get back, speaks to your level of development, not his. So people can go back and read Nietzsche every single time and get a deeper layer of meaning from him. People say this about the Bible as well, that almost it's like very deep texts, not just the Bible, but very deep texts. It's like, it's not like you read it and it gives you what it gives you. It gives you what you are ready for. And I think that's quite interesting. Yeah. Any other little additions? No. All right. Oh, yep. Francis?
Yeah, I think what you've mentioned about how if you have a world-changing idea and you have mentioned about how about throwing pearls to swine, right? And I think sometimes world-changing idea we could entrust it to the public in a very general sense, but if we do have it in a way for the right eyes to see, it might have a greater impact because the right eyes could have other kind of ways to put it across for various groups of people that are the right eyes for their way of putting across, right? So I think I might actually choose to conceal it.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I was thinking when I was studying a lot of this stuff that when every time when I was little or younger, I'd be like, I want to learn the secrets. I want to learn the mysteries. That's awesome to me. But then after I started to see some of them, I realized that things were hidden for a reason. Like, why? Why do people hide things? Like, why? To be just gatekeepers? I don't think so. I think it's a more interesting question to ask why things are hidden as opposed to what is being hidden. And some things are obvious, like, okay, Hermetic thought in the Middle Ages. It's easy to see why they hid that. It's because they couldn't say anything or they would die. But some things, some esoteric thought is really like, who is this going to hurt if you make it known? And I guess that's that's the mystery. That's if I knew the answer to that, then I would know it. But as well, one thing you said, it's not just like putting the ideas out so someone might reinterpret, but putting the ideas out for someone throughout time to reinterpret. I think that's the important thing. Something I've started doing that if I ever write anything in the future, it's not for now. It could be for down the aisle. I think it's really important because the world was not ripe for certain ideas to take primacy at the time. Something Nietzsche says as well. Friedrich Nietzsche, for those who don't know, wrote a book called Thus Spoke or Spake Zarathustra. It's an allusion to Zarathustra from Zoroastrianism. And it's about a guy who went up to a mountain, became enlightened, and then came down and started preaching, and then realized that the world was not ready for his words. And quite interesting. Big recommend. Yeah. Anyway, all right. Any other ones? No.
I just had just a random thought that came into my head. I just think about Blavatsky and when she wrote about, I guess, the Aryan race and Hitler took that the wrong way. I just think of that as a prime example of
Yeah.
how it can go wrong.
Nietzsche as well, to not bring up Nietzsche for the third time, but same thing. Yeah, his words were construed by Hitler, and that speaks to what I said before, is that some things that are out there are not for you. Like, you take from it what you want from it, as opposed to what is actually being said. Yeah. Harry?
Mark, I just want on, even thus spoke Zarathustra by Nietzsche was misconstrued by Hitler. So I think I think just like James brought it up, and again, when these people are writing of a world-changing idea, like you said, if you look at the sheer number of generations these ideas have lasted. I mean, Plato, I'm not sure he could have even fathomed, the number of generations that would pass. Uh, uh, you know, I mean, the number of generations that his ideas would last and be translated and transformed. And so, yeah, I think it's maybe some kind of a grand insight that these people, these selected few ones have.
Yeah, definitely. When it comes to like Plato, I often question like, wow, he changed the world, but how would he be like in today's world a bit? I don't know if you guys think of that, like how great thinkers throughout time, like God forbid, even like Blavatsky, how would she interpret the modern world? Yeah, Leo?
Well, I think that if Plato was still alive in this modern society, I think that he may live in a mountain and keep his mouth shut all the time. Because I do remember that when I read somewhere, what I heard somewhere, that back in those days, during Plato's days, anyone who joined his school, they need to stay quiet, keep the vow of silence for 5 years. So they are,
That's Pythagorean.
yeah. So something like that. So they need to keep a vow of silence for 5 years or minimum 3 years before they can actually talk about or speak about things that they have learned. And I think there's a reason behind the vow of silence.
Yeah, but the thing is though, is that by the time they had those rules in there, they were already brought up in the world that was different. Like, I mean, what if Plato was born 20 years ago and like he's our age now? It's like back then they didn't have the luxury of they had the luxury of not having distraction everywhere. You know what I mean? So it's like, how would Plato be if he was alive today, if he was like raised watching anime and stuff? Like that's what I want to know. So it's like, would he still be Plato, or did the times make the man a bit? I think that the man is the man. I think that people make the mistake that going back in time, like if I was back then, I would also think everything Plato thought. Is like, no, like these men were geniuses, so, and women were geniuses. So yeah. Anyway, any other ones? No,
I think maybe the next question should be the last one, so we can. Yeah. Okay.
No stress. Or maybe the most interesting one. Let me quickly scan it. Okay, that's a good one. Okay, this is kind of hitting the crux of everything. Does truth lose its power when it's hidden, or does it become stronger in the hands of those who seek it? Do we want to answer that, or is that a reiteration of what we already spoke about?
I like this question.
Okay, cool. Let's go with that. All right. So I'll ask it again. Would you rather be remembered for your courage and burned for your beliefs, or forgotten and no, sorry, that wasn't the question. My bad. Let's do it again. Does truth lose its power when it's hidden, or does it become stronger in the hands of those who seek it? Sorry, I'm just getting my screen to unfreeze. Okay, all right. Anyone have a question or answer?
Just a comment.
Yep.
Like, what is the truth here? Because Krishnamurti says, truth is a pathless land, and there's many ways how you can reach there. What I was thinking about is not the truth, but let's say an invention that the world is ready for something. And as I understood that the masters are working in a higher levels, like a mental level, and like some scientists or some people who have the mental capacity, who have built up to understand, get this idea. And oftentimes, several people around the world in different places get the same idea.
Yeah.
So the thing is, not everybody is giving it out. But what is needed is that it will be in some sort of way given out. Like they say, even who was the evolution lived at the similar time as Blavatsky, the evolution theory, Darwin. They say that he has several years this idea, and then he start writing and it start evolving in him. So I think he was also like pushed. And then Blavatsky came out like, yes, this is true, but this is only evolution in a physical level. You have evolution in a mental level, in a spiritual level. You have different levels. And she said like this whole system is more complicated. You cannot just look it like that. So I think it is given to if the right moment is come for the idea to come out to the world, it is given to several people to give their perspective or their views. I think there's quite many who we never have heard who got this and it didn't get out. We heard and remember only those who get out and reach us in some ways. And if the truth or this ideas comes to us in several ways, we understand it better because like one way is the Darwin way, the other way is the Blavatsky way. They both talk about the same like similar thing, but one person has like a one, how can I say, a build up understanding of one way and the other one the other, and both of them are benefiting the world. So I think the overall the truth that came out are the ones that in the right time that came out in the right time are the ones that will benefit us. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, no, that's an awesome answer. It seems like there was almost like two answers there, though. The last one was kind of like the many faces of truth, and some senses of truth slip out into the world, and like they evolve in a sense or like replicate. And then there are other senses of truth as well, but that are kind of lost in not fully lost, but lost in a sense. Like, for example, I think the world went in the Enlightenment way where everything became very scientific, everything became reductionistic. And there are other truths, but they just don't have the same voice. But then there's the other sense where it's like what you said was really awesome was who's to say that truth is going to remain hidden? Like what blows my mind is Da Vinci and Michelangelo were alive, the two of the greatest painters and maybe geniuses of all time, at the exact same time in the same area, right? Like no one has held a flame to in the same styles as Michelangelo and Da Vinci, and these two geniuses were alive at the same time. And you see that throughout history. It's almost like the universe kind of creates these kind of like peaks. I don't know if anyone's familiar with bodybuilding, but like there's a bodybuilder named Ronnie Coleman, and he's like the greatest bodybuilding that we have seen, and we haven't seen anything like him, and he was like 20 years ago. So it's like for some reason the universe will just produce two people or multiple people. Edward Newton, a lot of Edward Newton's theories were developed by people on the other side of the world at the same time, but Edward Newton was just first, same as Einstein. And it's like quite interesting. Yeah, Christopher.
Yeah, my understanding here is that the truth is kind of the truth. It doesn't really change. I mean, given that it's impermanent, but it's really it's something that's there. It's truth. So for example, it's only our ability to perceive the truth which is different. So for example, the truth is that the sun is at the center of the solar system and that the planets revolve around the sun. But like in the 16th century, people were not able to perceive this truth. And because they were able to see the sunset and the sunrise, we kind of thought that the sun sets and rises following, or the sun orbits around the planet Earth, which is not true, right? So for me, the truth is the truth. So the sun will always remain at the center of the solar system, whether we perceive it to be true or not, because it's there. So the truth is something that we look for. There's something that we try to look out for. It's something we try to perceive. But our ability to perceive it, I think that is what is evolving. And perhaps today there are certain truths that we're able to perceive, which the public or the group consciousness may not be able to recognize, and maybe we can provide hints. And in the future, these hidden truths may become something which is common because we're evolving and our ability to perceive truth and reality becomes more expansive.
Yeah. One quick thing on that is that my worry though is that just as like the people can maybe pick up on truths, you know, throughout time, like I think we have a very troubled world right now, but the people also can pick up on lies very easily as well. And watching the lies perpetuate and get worse over time is a horrible feeling. Another thing that just gave me an awesome kind of memory from this research is that, so you guys know the alchemical symbol for the sun, it's just the circle with the dot in the middle. That's the alchemical symbol for the sun. And I looked at that, I'm like, makes sense. It's the sun at the center, and then it has the orbit around it. And then I don't know how I didn't realize this, but they didn't believe in the heliocentric model back then. So when I'm looking at this alchemical symbol for the sun, the dot in the middle isn't the sun, it's the earth. And the sun is the circle, not the dot in the middle. And so that was like, whoa, hold on. All these truths that I came about and saw the connections with this older symbol, were they real or were they not? Because my interpretation was wrong. And sometimes you can stumble across truth, I think, in an incorrect way or based on some, not lies, but some mishaps. Yeah. All right. Next question.
I think that Swetoslav is still waiting.
Yep.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you very much for the fascinating lecture. And I think it depends a lot on the perspective because, I mean, if I was alive in the 15th, 16th century, I would look for Buddhist masters of those days, considering them the guiding light for me. So I think there are many geniuses maybe in one given moment in the history of humanity and even today. And also some can gain recognition over dozens of years or hundreds of years later maybe. So even now in the days of technology, maybe there are some we not aware of or underestimate maybe. And as for the secrecy, I wanted to mention that like it's a big topic in theosophical literature, why the initiates need secrecy and so on and so on. I think it's explained in the Secret Doctrine and in other places. And the first letter of the Mahatmas pretty much speaks about it. But it's interesting that one aspect that I want to mention seemed to me very like unexpected. It's mentioned that some lack of knowledge actually keeps the interest going like a flame because people, when they feel mystery, they want to know, and that is actually a good side of it to keep some mystery. Thank you. But there are many other aspects. Thank you.
100%. Thank you very much for that answer. It was awesome. It just reminded me a bit that when you talk of the geniuses throughout time that might be existing today, but just didn't get the recognition, always reminds me, it keeps me up at night. Sometimes I'll wake up in night sweats over it. I'm joking, but it's the burning of the Library of Alexandria. Or not just that, but many other libraries that have been lost. It's estimated by scholars that 95% of just Stoicism alone, the field of Stoicism, 95% of Stoic works are gone. And it's like, how many thinkers just in Stoicism alone, let alone everything else? We're really living in a time where we have a slither of knowledge of the past. It's just incredible and scary. Yeah, Leo?
Yes, I think that we have a few messages here because people need to leave.
I haven't seen them. Yes.
So for Leonardus, you may want to read the message, Malik, if you want.
From Leonardus, so that's while truth is inexhaustible. Is it that one? Yeah, while truth is inexhaustible, I feel that there is something akin to the vehicle / energy / key, that it is rather fragile, that will dissipate at the moment when wrongly shared or used. This is what loses power when opened carelessly to the world, and only in the hands of who is ready will shine. Very well written. That's 100%, 100% on the money, I think. Fantastic. Thank you very much, Leonidas, if he's left, but that's okay. And then Clover also has left. Thank you, Malik, for the presentation. I've studied Shakespeare's works and I've always been fascinated by their wisdom. Now that I'm really interested in how wisdom is encrypted in these familiar works, or now I am interested. Everyone's insight on truth are also really thought-provoking and reveal its multifaceted nature. I would definitely attend your next presentation on Shakespeare's works. I sign off now. Thanks, invite. Thank you very much, Clover, if they watch this footage back. And yeah, thank you, Christopher, as well, for your awesome input. And I wanted to thank Leonidas again. He asked a really good question.
Yeah.
But yeah, Francis?
Yeah, I think pertaining to what Leonidas has spoken, I think if it is something that is true, like in the objective sense, like ultimate truth, it wouldn't just lose power if it is exposed, because that is the eternal principle that holds the manifestation of reality, so to speak. So like how strong the thought was formed around the truth is not just formed in our time, right?
So truth can't lose power. Truth is power.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And all these the truth, because in a way is eternal, it has been built up by even beings that exist way before our time. Right. So it's like it contributes to such a huge power, so to speak, or the energy that it doesn't really run out. And of course, like there are books that were guarded by I think by the masters it's like a hidden library somewhere in Tibet. And there were books that are not supposed to be exposed as well. It's not just hidden in symbols or abstract art, right? And I feel like what Sweat has mentioned is that sometimes a little bit of forbidden fruit makes people keeps going on. And yeah, I think it does not lose power, and it also becomes stronger for those that actually achieves it in a way that is proper, so to speak.
Yeah.
Proper. Yeah.
Very, very quickly on that, super quickly. In philosophy, there's what's called pragmatic truth. And pragmatic truth is whatever works is true. And that's why I don't think truth can never extinguish, and it can never lose its power, because if it infinitely will work, it can't. Humans want what will work, right? So they're always going to gravitate towards it. You know what I mean? Yeah, Leah?
Yeah, I quite agree with what Francis say, because I don't believe that truth will lose any kind of power, because truth itself is power, wisdom, love, beauty, a lot of things, are truth. So I think that for truth, it will never change. If it's hidden or it is, revealed. But does it become stronger in the hands of those who seek it? I don't think it's going to become stronger or become weaker. It is like us who are the one who's seeking truth. What we will do with it, and I believe for at least for my level of evolution or something like that, I may just see a fragments of truth. It's not like the ultimate truth. And whatever I see and I believe this is the ultimate truth, I'm really doomed. So I think truth is, infinite, and then for our evolution, we can come closer and closer to the truth. But I'm not really sure when or what is the ultimate truth is.
Okay, but last thing, because I know we got to wrap up now, but this is what's interesting. This is a counterpoint. Truth might only be true in the right context, such as in psychology, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? If you go into into the wild and be like, well, I don't want, like, it's true, I don't want to eat too much or else, I'll gain too much weight. That's a truth that is not relevant in that context. You know what I mean? And throughout history, I fear that some truths or some experiments or social experiments get one shot. And if they fail, society will forget it and then move on to some other strategy. And I think we saw this with old Europe 7,000 years ago, where society was matriarchal. And we know it was matriarchal because all of the deity worship at the time was female statues. And it was matriarchal. They had no weapons and no border walls, and there was no war for 4,000 years. And then what happened is that off to the east, patriarchal forces accumulated, armies formed, they went to war, and then they came in and wiped them out. And it's horrible for 4,000 years of matriarchal prosperity. But then I asked myself this, I was like, well, if that was the right way to live, why didn't it work? Why are they gone? And it might have been correct, but at a point in which man was brutal. And like in the future, it might be a matriarchal or matriarchal and patriarchal society is the truth. But if we try and execute it now, it just won't work. Maybe like communism as well. Some people say communism as an ideal is so good, but if we try and execute it now without the right cultural framework, it just always leads to chaos. Your question?
I don't have a question. I have a comment on that.
Comment? Yep.
Because what you said, and I'm just referring to the secret doctrine, that humans like is a soul, and being a human is like a stage in this process of soul evolution, going back to the divinity. And there's a one stage on this long evolution where the sexes are separated. And some of the lives you are a man, some of the lives you are women. So some of the lives in the matriarchic system, I was a woman and leading, and some of them I was a man. And also in this system, where it is mostly patriarchic, some of them lives I live here, I am a female, and some of them I'm a man. So if you do something while being a man to a woman, then you create karma and you will see the consequences. Why we're doing it, to have the most experiences, to learn, to be aware of ourselves and the separateness, and then we can go back. So in the future, there wouldn't be, like far in the future, there wouldn't be any matriarch or patriarchic. There would just be like a humanity, but yeah. So I feel exactly. I feel it's like a stage, and it's an important stage because we have something to learn from it. It's like why if we had the time when we didn't have the weapons, and then the time that we had the weapons, why it came. We have something to learn from it. What the idea of that the war itself, like in Mahabharata, like in Bhagavad Gita, you have it in a physical way. They are describing the war, but actual war is going on in our lower and higher selves. Like which one wants to take over? We have given the power for the lower self for quite a long time, but the higher are the one who has actually he's or she's stepping back and letting it happen until the lower is asking for connection. It will not happen before the lower is asking connection, but until it doesn't happen totally, there is some war, and this war which we see outside in the humanity, that's always some war is somewhere in the world going on, is outcome what is going on inside. So as long as there's inside war about the higher and lower, there's outside manifestations of it. Yeah.
Awesome. No, that was a great answer. Great input. Yeah.
Okay, I think that's we have nearly like more than 45 minutes of discussion.
Yeah.
And thank you, Malik, so much. I think the other young people, they have other programs, as you know, other lodges
No,
like
no stress at all. Yeah, I think we went
yes.
well over time, so there's no
Yeah,
stress.
yeah, that's fine. That's fine. But it's really good. And long discussion means that it was really good and people want to participate. So thank you, Malik, for being here. And then hopefully maybe next time you can give us another talk.
Yeah.
Something like this, maybe in the next couple of months or so.
Yeah, I love feedback. So if you guys liked it, then I'll definitely do something like it. It was a bit of a risk, right? It's really like in the reads a bit there. So yeah.
Yeah.
Did you want to say something, Francis?
Oh yes, just one last thing. I think the point there you put across about the matriarch versus the patriarch system. I think I heard Mike, right? Mike from Sydney. He actually gave a very, very good quote when we were talking about Marxism and all the different kind of ideology. And he says, what's good now, and what's good that outlive its usefulness eventually becomes the new evil.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah, so the thing is like I think knowing there are ways or ideologies that make sense during a specific time of civilization. It is just like how Darwinian actually came out with the evolution theory, like the weakest will always die out. So
Well, I think that with the Great Depression, right? The Great Depression hit, 1940s. Get a job, be a man, be strong, don't cry, support your family. That is what masculinity has always been, right? Because that was what was needed, right?
Yeah.
You couldn't mess about. You needed a job. You had a family. That was the culture, right? And so as we've gone 100 years or 80 years past that, that's dying out. And now we're getting these accusations of toxic masculinity and so on. It's outlived its usefulness, and now it's seen as an evil. But that's might be valid in that if you're applying a standard that is no longer useful, it might be not evil, but might be bad. You know what I mean?
That's right.
Yeah. Awesome.
All right. Thank you so much. So mind blown. Pretty good.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
All right, thank you, Malik.
No
Thank
worries.
you, everyone. Good night, good afternoon, good morning, and then I'll see you guys next time.
Yeah, see you later.
Yeah,
See
thank
ya.
you.
Have a good
Bye-bye.
one. Bye.